control cards.
And we see Esper Control did win game number 1 here, and this is exactly what Nick Miller talked about. There are a lot of blue-white base decks here at the top tables of this tournament. I suppose Mono Green can saw through those. There's the potential for that.
His deck is probably a little less robust against Supreme Verdict than some other strategies, but he is way less susceptible to Jace.
Yeah,
that's a big
that's
deal.
the nice spot. Yeah, because a lot of the time when when an aggro deck that's monocolor is playing against Esper or blue-white, it's like, okay, if they have Jace or if they have Supreme Verdict, things get a little bit hairy here. But if it's Jace from these blue-white decks, the mono green deck is just laughing.
Yeah, it's dead. Attack it, Slaughterhorn. It's dead.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, they're just really just bum rushing through it. So if it's not Verdict, and the nice thing is as much as Mending Touch feels like a joke, it's a funny card, and it just regenerates target creature. It doesn't even cantrip. It's kind of embarrassing, but against Verdict decks, that card's no joke.
I mean, you Mending Touch a creature, you have a Mute Vault in play.
Yeah.
You're hitting for 5 the turn after.
Yes, we saw that happen.
Yeah,
in the
that's
last
a real
match.
thing.
Plus, no one wants to see a Brush Strider die.
No,
that thing needs to live.
It's such a cute beast.
The word you're looking for is gallant.
It's a gallant.
It's a gallant beast. Here's an Elvish Mystic from Hawkins. Nostrant going to play Temple of Enlightenment. Going to get that mana online. Going to do a little scry action here. You see a Detention Sphere among other cards in his hand right now. Really going to take the time to consult his hand before figuring out how he wants to resolve that scry. For Hawkins in his sideboard, he's got 2 Abrupt Decays, a Chandra Pyromaster, along with 2 Golgari Charms, 2 Mistcutter Hydras, a Mizium Mortars, a Sire of Insanity, 3 Thoughtseizes, 2 Ultimate Prices, and 1 Vraska the Unseen. Again, this deck list looks pretty close to what Van Meter was playing, and Kibler has been recommending as far as Judd Monsters is concerned. You're going to have some copies of Courser of Crufix, but only 2 as opposed to 4.
So again, a very powerful card, but on significant diminishing returns.
Yeah.
I still personally advocate for 4, but I understand the idea behind cutting at least 1.
Another copy of Elvish Mystic going to come into play, really opening himself up to Detention Sphere here. But I think, honestly, in this spot, if, Detention Sphere were the card to be played in the Elvish Mystics, that means Detention Sphere isn't taking care of a card like Domri or Xenagos or things of that nature. So you're probably happy with that exchange.
And Eric's hand only allows it to do what it can. It looks like he has Sire and Sandy in hand. He has to play the game for that, because what else is he going to do?
So there's a Temple of Mouse, a little scry action.
It's not the best position, but what else is he going to do?
Yeah, I agree. There's a Mistcutter Hydra for 3. Again, that's not exciting either, but it's better than nothing, as here's an attack for 3. So Hawkins is going to put Nostrant down to 17.
And this sort of highlights the challenge of trying to beat Esper Control with creatures rather than your Planeswalkers. You see these Detention Spheres and various Sweepers, Elspeth, all these things are so punishing against your creature draws, but the Planeswalkers can allow you to battle through their various attrition elements.
Yeah. That's really a big deal there, too. See what Nostrant wants to do on his turn. Again, we know he's a Detention Sphere. He's looking at a Hollow Fountain right now. He might be considering playing that untapped and de-sphearing up those Mystics, as he obviously cannot target the Mistcutter Hydra. But is even that exciting of a play? It might just be a necessary evil at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, but again, what else is he doing this turn? Because the Elvish Mystics are threatening attackers even. Jayme's taken some shots already. If Eric just untaps and attacks for 5, it's a pretty bad turn for Jayme.
Looks like Domri rolled off the top of the deck here for Hawkins, so not a bad restart. Also, there's 1 less Detention Sphere to actually take care of that. So take a look at the top card. That one's going to stay down. That's a Stomping Ground that's going to come into play tapped, and attack here for 3 with the Hydra's going to put Nostrant down to 11, and Hawkins is just going to simply pass the turn back. So Nostrant's going to untap those 3 lands. He'll take a draw, and we'll see what his 4th turn's going to be, because this is the crucial turn for Esper.
Yeah, although at this spot, neither Jace nor Supreme Verdict are backbreaking for Eric. And it's nice that he's been able to work himself from that spot.
Temple of Silence is where he's going to begin. He's going to take a look at the top card, consult the grip yet again. You see a Syncopate, there's another D-Sphere, and Elspeth, and a Dissolve in the grip for Nostrant. So there are definitely some cards that are good. Supreme Verdict was placed on the top, and he's just going to pass the turn back with a Dissolve at the ready.
But Eric has to be pretty happy. Things were looking bad when his Elvish Mystics got Detention Sphered, but
Domri going to take on up. Going to miss again. And again, as we saw a little bit earlier today in Ketter's first round match, he was missing a lot with Domri, and that doesn't really surprise you very much when you think about it. You're boarding in a lot of spells. Again, we're talking about Abrupt Decay, Golgari Charm, Sire of Insanity, obviously a creature, 3 copies of Thoughtseize, Vraska. So you count those numbers, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Chandra, maybe that's 9. You've already got Xenagos and other Domries in your deck. There's a lot of spells in your deck after sideboard.
Yeah, and it's probably coming at the expense of some of your creatures like Palachronos that aren't well suited for the matchup.
But it just really shouldn't come as much of a surprise when Domri is missing a bunch. As Supreme Verdict will take care of the Mistcutter Hydra. Hawkins going to take a draw here.
Oh my goodness. Does he have an untapped 6th land in his hand? Is that an Overgrown Tomb?
I think that is. This is Sire.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh boy. Sire of Insanity. Lose them all.
Oh my goodness.
That's why that's in there.
Oh no, the big difference is a Detention Sphere, Mutavault, several counter spells, and Elspeth. And that's a dissolve off the top, I think.
You better cast that one. You're going to lose that too, so that's going to go. Hawkins. Let's not forget he has a Domri in play, so that's going to take up to 7. And there's a copy of Elvish Mystic going to go to the grip. We're going to be going to a 3rd game here in just a moment. I can promise you that. No cartwheels involved, however. Nostrant going to go down to 2. He's going to pick up those lands. Certainly doesn't have any cards to pick up in his hand. Sire of Insanity, that's a good Magic card.
Things were looking so good for Jayme after that Detention Sphere turn. Rips Domri, that creates some headache that Jayme needs to slog through somehow. The Mistcutter Hydra basically induces a Supreme Verdict on its own. That opens up the window for Sire Insanity. Just a crazy game for Eric to win.
Now, you know, the interesting thing here with the Sire Insanity, there's one main deck and one in the sideboard. And, you know, we saw at the beginning of Jund Monsters, there was a 1-1 split. I remember at the beginning when I worked on the deck, I was playing one Rurik Thar and one Sire Insanity. The thought process there was, all right, there are definitely situations where Rurik Thar is better than Sire Insanity. There will also be situations where I Sire Insanity and I clear each other's hands, and then maybe my opponent draws like or not a Rev, but like a Verdict or something, or maybe they already have an Elspeth in play. It's like, this doesn't really do anything. You know, it's not always going to line up like it just did.
Right.
So in that particular situation, had that been a Rurik Thar, that sucks. That was not going to do it.
Rurik Thar would have been fine in that spot.
It's okay. I mean, the opponent Nostrant had a Detention Sphere in his hand.
Sure, that's some, you know, you get your points in or
you
whatever.
You get your 6, yes, but a Sire of Insanity in that situation is game over.
Oh, sure, yeah. I think a 1-1 split makes some sense.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if we believe that Sire of Insanity is the place to be all the time, and it might be against this particular deck and blue-white, things are much different, and I'll tell you what, it looked great there.
It was the best card in Standard in that moment.
Would you say it was insane?
There was nothing better. I would not, because that is hackery. But I do agree with your point in principle.
Thank you.
It was, in that moment, the best card possible in Standard to have.
Eric Hawkins wants to do that one more time.
Yep.
So that he can make top 8 this week. And Game 3 between Esper Control and Jund Monsters is going to be underway in just a second. And of course, if you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series here in Milwaukee, our first official Open Series weekend for Season 2. It's been fun so far.
Oh yeah, and the Monogreen aggro list being in the top 8 just adds. Yeah. Adrian Sullivan, another great performance with Blue-White Control.
Yeah.
Almost certainly top 8ing even with a loss.
This is a long time coming for him.
For sure.
He's been cutting people up with Blue-White for a while now, and he's got a 9th place finish, a loss for, you know, a loss during his win-in at St. Louis. This can't really surprise anybody. It's also got to be pretty sweet for him since he's not his hometown, but basically in it.
Yeah, as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah, you know, I think of guys from the Midwest. He's right at the top of the list. You know, there's him, there's Brian Colwall, some other guys, but you know, kind of holding down the Midwest and really proud to be a member of the Midwest is Adrian Sullivan. I kind of renounced my Midwest, you know, guild.
He is one of the few players that I'm around regularly who predates me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes way back.
He's been playing forever. He's been writing about it forever, and he's just one of the best parts of Magic.
I remember reading his content on the dojo when I was in high school. I mean, that's how far back he goes.
You were in high school a long time ago.
I was in high school a very long time ago.
Here is a Temple of Abandon, so both players are going to start with a little bit of scry action. I like to just continuously call you old as though I'm some sort of spring chicken.
You are in a relative sense. We all are in a relative sense. You more so than me.
Thank you. This is an island. That's a pass the turn back for Nostrant, who does have a Syncopate at the ready for the first spell that Hawkins does play that he deems relevant. Another copy of Temple of Abandon is going to allow Hawkins to scry here.
So in general, are you a fan of cutting Sylvan Caryatid against Supreme Verdict decks?
I think it's okay. The issue here is that your black mana is a little bit stretched. Like, you don't have a lot of it. There are 4 Blood Crypts, there are 4 Overrun Tombs, and a Temple of Malice. So I've found that if you're boarding in a lot of black cards, or you want to play 2 black spells in one turn, you actually need Caryatid more than Elvish Mystic, because realistically, Mystic isn't going to do a lot of damage, and the cards that it's ramping you into aren't going to help you that much. I think you'd rather have a more stable mana base. That being said, I can see arguments for both sides. Here is that Syncopate take care of Domri.
Elvish Mystic does give you the upside of a turn 2 Domri draw, which Sylvan Character does not facilitate.
But, that also begs the question here of how good is a turn 2 Domri draw against Esper Control. There are times where it's very good. I think there are other times where it's rather mediocre, and it doesn't actually do what you want it to do. Now, that being said, when you're on the play with a turn 2 Domri draw, I think it's a big deal. When you're on the draw, it's not as much, as a Syncopate or something else can really break it up.
Sure.
Hawkins going to play a Forest. And you see right now, he doesn't have any black mana just yet. I don't know if he's sandbagging or not. And he's going to play a Pull of Chronos. We'll see if this resolves or not.
It looks like Jayme's a little tight on mana right now. He does have some powerful stuff in his hand, Sphinx's Revelation, Fated Retribution, Blood Baron, but...
Devour Flesh, too.
Yeah.
So he is definitely Esper. He's not these blue-white decks that are just touching for black. He is Esper Control. We'll see if he just wants to Devour Flesh this or not. He's really giving this a lot of thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I don't know if he wants to try to get more value out of the Supreme Verdict, maybe.
I'm a big fan of 1-for-1ing, but that's just me. I'm not saying that that's appropriate. He's just going to rev for 1 here, so this is pretty telling.
That is a man who needs a land.
Yeah. That's not a play that you see often there from Esper or blue-white or anything. He did not draw one. All he did was rip 2 Elspeths. Now he could really go reaching for Verdict. Just in the fact that he wants to really get as much from this as he can.
Yeah. But can he afford to be trading his Verdict for 1 card against a Jump Monsters opponent who's probably flush with other big threats in Planeswalkers?
The issue here is he kind of opens himself up to some things like a Thoughtseize or anything like that nature. And you see there is a Blood Crypt there in Hawkins' hand. So he's been sandbagging the black source a little bit here. There is your Blood Crypt. Hawkins is going to go down to 18. Oh, he's going to play Stormbreath Dragon, so he's really going to open himself up now to Verdict. But he might be okay with this because this could be the old 1-2 punch.
Oh, yeah. I think there might be a Sire of Insanity or Rourke Thar lingering in someone's hand.
This could be a real thing here. You see Jayme. Is he just going to take this damage and try to Verdict the next turn? Yeah, I mean, that might be his game plan. He's going to take 9.
The problem is that he still is compelled to Supreme Verdict away the Stormbreath Dragon, even if he edicts away the Pal Chronos.
Yeah, that's true.
So the die is cast. He can only do this.
Looks like Thoughtseize may have been the draw. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Verdict. If it's land Sire of Insanity, it is lights out Guerrilla Radio.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
So fast he untaps and draws.
I had to imagine his willingness to play the Stormbreath Dragon. Ooh.
He has Sire in his hand. 6 land comes into play taps.
Dodged it.
Yeah, I'd say so. This is another dragon.
Well, that's not bad either.
Yeah, okay, just another mythic rare.
I was going to say maybe he might have been a little too aggressive running that Stormbreath Dragon out there, but if you have a second one, then, whatever.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's fine, too.
Thoughtseize drawn here. Nostrant very, very frustrated with his draw.
Torturous Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
Although I'm not a huge fan of Thoughtseize in this matchup in general.
Me either. I don't think it works the way that you want it to a lot of the time. Now, obviously, it looks at its worst here, so it's easy to say that this is poor. Yeah, that's not actually true. I don't think. And I think Nostrant's actually going to cast Devour Flesh right now, and I think the reason for that is because he doesn't want to get blown up by Hawkins just playing Mutavault as his land, because that would be an absolute nightmare. And of course, you can't respond to a land drop, so he might think to himself, "I am forced to actually cast Devour Flesh now," which is it's a disaster, and he's going to.
Yeah, when Esper has to react to threats like this, it's a much more manageable deck.
Hawkins going to move up to 22, which isn't too relevant right now. But if you're Hawkins, especially if you draw a land this turn to play around Syncopate for 1, I think you just got to drop down. He drew a Stomping Grounds. I think you just got to jam it.
I mean, his hand's pretty powerful. You don't think there's a risk of Jayme ripping a Supreme Verdict if he goes for Sire this turn and just doesn't matter?
Just let's go. If you peel it, you peel it. If you don't, you die. Yeah, there's Sire, and he's able to play around Syncopate. If it's Essence Scatter, it's Essence Scatter. If it's not, it's not. It's going to resolve. So there goes a bunch of Elspeth and Thoughtseizes, because chances are he's going to draw a land, right? Because he hasn't drawn any.
That's pretty likely.
Yeah, there's an island. Pass the turn back. There's a miss. Oh, okay. On to the top 8 goes Eric Hawkins. Mistcutter, Hydra, and Sire of Insanity take it down. Jun Monsters will have one of you in the elimination rounds as well. Congratulations to Eric Hawkins defeating Jayme Nostrant and his mana problems 2 games to 1. And you can see